Hello everyone, we live. It is Friday afternoon on East Coast, and it's morning on the West Coast, and it is afternoon in Kansas, I guess. Hello, this is Irene from SaugaTalks, and I'm here with my co-host Brian Thomas from Coruzant. How are you, Brian, today?
Fabulous. This is awesome. I'm really jazzed and inspired. We get to meet a brand new guest on the show today, and I think this is one of the ones I'm always looking forward to these. But Ray has just been such an inspiration and influencer in his space. I'm jazzed. So anyway, enough about that. My day's going fabulous, and I can't wait to get started.
Beautiful. That's what we're here for. And today we're absolutely privileged and excited and humbled because today here with us, Ray Wang. Hello, Ray. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, good morning, everybody. So happy Friday.
Thank you. We are humbled to have the star of your caliber today on the show with us because there's so much to talk about. Ray, you are best-selling author. You are keynote speaker. You are a TV personality and you're media personality. So I think I got to know you about 10 years ago. You did not know me then. I was with IBM at the time, but you were definitely an influential person in tech back then. And since then, your empire is growing. Congratulations on all the success, Ray. So today, we don't want to talk about your latest book because what we're going to talk about how we're all surviving and thriving in the world of digital giants. That's a big ambition. So Ray, talk to us a little bit. What are these digital giants we're going to talk about?
It's a great question, right? And we've been talking about digital transformation for quite some time. Like we started the company Constellation Research in 2010. That was the focus is, talking about digital transformation. But sometime a few years ago, we realized that digital transformation was not enough. And we're trying to figure out like why projects weren't being successful, why companies weren't, succeeding. And we realized the business model had completely changed. Now, what do I mean by the business model? Well, there was a new class of companies that had emerged, and they had basically followed a playbook. And that playbook, whether they knew it was happening at that point in time or not, was basically this playbook of digital giants. Great example. We look at Domino's Pizza and we say, hey, they did a good job with digital transformation. They competed against Pizza Hut for 50 years. By all means, they became duopolies, and you know what? Pizza Hut pretty much lost to Domino's. At the end of the day, Domino's was more innovative. You can order pizza on Alexa. You can order pizza, any device you want, right? You can track the pizza from, the order from to the oven to your door. And more importantly, you could actually take a picture of the pizza and run it through their AI bot, and they would tell you what the quality is like. Perfect. They won the battle for digital transformation. But how often do you order pizza? Maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe once a week. How often do you order from Domino's? Maybe once a month, depending on who you are. You might even order once a week. But the challenge is food delivery apps basically have eaten the lunch of almost everybody. And why did that happen? Well, you order from Uber Eats or Postmates or any one of these folks, maybe 2 times a week, 3 times a week. And you don't order the same thing. You might change it up. You might order Italian, or you might order Mexican, or you might order Thai or Indian. But that's the point. These small businesses basically gave away their customers to the food delivery app. They handed their data, their payments, all their likes and preferences over to the food delivery app companies, and they gave up customer account control. Then these companies took that data and figured out, hey, some places like Italian food more often, other folks like Thai food, and you saw that some of them built ghost kitchens, some of them built their own restaurants, some of them optimized for those delivery routes. And so they used data to compete as a competitive advantage. Then the third thing that actually happened that was interesting is they started monetizing that information and data. So whether it's placement or search or what I mentioned, they could build their own ghost kitchen, right? They placed the digital monetization in play, and then suddenly they had some of the biggest networks, tens of millions of users all across a country, a geography that was using their food delivery app. And you know what? They can lose as much money as they want because they have a long-term growth plan. And that allows them to lose hundreds of millions of dollars while Domino's actually has to make their number. And so these companies with those 5 characteristics of taking customer account control, winning on data, building a digital monetization model, taking, more importantly, the ability to build networks and, of course, run a long-term growth plan. That gave them a huge advantage. And there's going to be there's going to be 100 of these companies in 50 markets all over the world. We're going to see a massive rush towards these digital giant models.
That's simply it's almost scary but amazing and inspiring at the same time, Ray. Companies have been doing this for years, as you talked about digital transformation, and a lot of companies don't get it. I've been in companies, large companies, that say, "Hey, we've got this, we're going to start this innovation, and we're going to do this and that," and it gets exciting at first, and there might have some success initially, but they forget that it's a journey. It's not just a project they can check the check mark in the box and they're done. But you're absolutely right. The people that are really flipping things on their head are the ones that are doing the research, gleaning all this data, and really standing out in the crowd. So you're absolutely right. I love this stuff. This has just juiced me up.
Yes, Ray, absolutely. If you could enlighten us a little further, right? Companies who, I would say, choosing new strategies, because COVID changed everything for everyone. And digital transformation this year is not what it was 2 years before, when people were putting it like father burner kind of, I don't have my priorities straight, I don't have budget for this and that. Guess what? That budget is here now. So, Ray, how do you see company transforming beyond digital transformation?
Yeah, it's a great point. Everybody started out their digital initiatives with a digital channel. Can I get it onto mobile? Can I get a web device to work? Can I make augmented reality something that happens today? But a lot more has to happen. What it is really a move to digital business models. And you saw that when people get to subscription models, or they got to selling digital goods and services, or they started to change the way they approached how they serve the customer in terms of thinking about that design process. And then the third thing was digital monetization. You can monetize with ads and search and goods and services and memberships and subscriptions. It's just that a lot of companies haven't really thought through how that's going to work. And the challenge is when you do move into those digital models, you realize that companies with different business models are competing with each other. So let's take the digital ads market. We know Google and Facebook pretty much took over and won that battle. Google has $140 billion in ad revenue. Facebook has $70 billion in ad revenue. And so the next nearest competitor for the longest time was maybe Microsoft at about $1 billion. Well, Google has actually a business model built on search where they're the dominant player. Facebook has a business model built on social where they're the dominant player. But out of nowhere, Amazon is now doing $14 billion in advertising. And they're the third largest player. And what are they the dominant player of? It's a little bit more than commerce, but you see it already with Amazon Prime and the ads. You see it with placement on the commerce side. Their ad business is what's keeping Google and Facebook up at night. Right? So three, one would say, dominant companies, almost near monopolies in their market space, are battling it out in a very competitive market for digital ads. And so what we used to believe business models and monetization models were similar, those no longer exist. Different business models are competing for the same monetization model.
Nowadays we're seeing, as an example, Ray, we're seeing the small mom and pop solopreneurs coming out and doing something very similar. Obviously, they can't compete with those companies that are, that kind of have the deep pocketbooks, so to speak. But we're seeing, and I just was reading up on some solopreneurs that are making 10 figures a year.
Yes.
Just basically taking this model and creating some sort of sales funnel and monetizing it and doing things, and we're seeing the traditional corporations kind of losing traction to all this because they're not willing to change. And one last tidbit, Ray, this is your show, but if you look at Fortune 500s since 2000, I believe, if I'm correct, I can't remember, something like 54 or 55% of those companies are no longer around. They've been disrupted completely and they're gone and out of business. So that's simply amazing at what's happening, the transformation. People need to keep up. Irene?
Yeah.
Oh, Ray, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a stat we've used for a long time. 52% of the Fortune 500 merged, acquired, gone bankrupt since 2000. When we look at that number now in 2021, we think that's going to be a 61% number. That's actually happening since 2020, since 2000. It's probably the better way to look at it. And, that disruption where you're talking about solo entrepreneurs beating out major corporations and networks is real. I mean, just look at the TikTok influencers as one example. And, the ratings on, I don't know, a morning show like Bloomberg or, Fox Business or any one of those shows, CNBC, they're probably doing 130,000 viewers. But these solo folks are doing millions of viewers, right? They've got bigger empires than the media giants. And these are just individuals. And it's anything from lending their brand to what we call ghost retailing, where they're actually, making recommendations, right, to monetizing their shows. I mean, any one of these are there. And it's amazing the amount of power that an individual can wield, especially in a market.
Ray, do you see this digital divide though? Because, we all love new shiny toys. Examples you're giving are fantastic. We love to read the news. We love to watch these videos. Amazon this, Google that. This is really amazing times we live in. Yet, 85% of businesses, right, companies around the world, right, they're not in that universe. So those who are in this bubble, good for them, right, amazing opportunities. What about more classical, traditional business models? Everyone has to be disrupted now?
I think everybody is already disrupted now. But if you take a simple thing, right? Look, whether you're a farmer in sub-Saharan Africa or, whether you're a trader in Southeast Asia, or if you're, doing like a small business in Latin America, it doesn't matter. You're connected, right? You've got a phone. You're ready to go. And, if you're watching the Bitcoin conference that's going on at the moment, right, you realize that there's 8 billion people in the world. If they've got a digital device, if they've got a single set of currencies, something unique will start to happen, right? They're not going to be subject to the whims of their government printing too much money, devaluing all their wealth by selling it away. You're going to have things like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, which are going to allow you to actually preserve your wealth instead of letting your government spend it away without your free will. You're going to have connectivity to the internet, but it's not going to be like a web-based connectivity. You're going to get it on a mobile device. And we already have, 4.5, 5 billion people connected by mobile device around the world. And that's a pretty good number, right? So the connectivity is there. Now the question is, can you get rid of all the middlemen and middle women too, that are actually not delivering value, right? And we're going to go direct to consumer, peer-to-peer transactions. That's going to change how we kind of interact. So I think, yes, there is a digital divide in the traditional sense that large companies who have big data troves that are running AI with massive tech budgets, are dominating markets. But there's so much power to the individual. Once you can actually free yourself of your currency, get connected onto the internet, and figure out a digital monetization model that's serving a need that people couldn't reach before, because the whole world is available to you because of the internet.
Yeah, we're all connected now. And Ray, you're absolutely right. Every day I talk to somebody that, and Reed does the same, influencers, CEOs, people that are coming out with new products and services that make it even easier to access connectivity, access digital funds, cryptocurrency, all these technologies is making the world more democratized, and we will be able to continue to disrupt. And it's inevitable. It's inevitable, as you know, change is inevitable, but it's coming. And people that are still running big companies, and I'm talking Fortune 100 or in that size of companies, they need to be, they should have been, doing their strategic plan 6 years ago. If they're not now, they're going to be out of business.
It's a great point. Look, a lot of folks have basically taken the money out of their organizations through mergers, acquisitions, stock, share buybacks, dividends, and basically not invested in their organization. And some of it is because there's nothing to invest in at the time. So they went and did a stock buyback. But if you notice, the digital giants don't do that. They hoard cash. because they are always constantly innovating. They're investing anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15% of their revenues into R&D. They're not giving that up. They realize that it's a battle on the technology front, and they've got to constantly invest to get to that level of growth. Large public companies that fail to do that, they're basically playing the short-term game. And if you're playing the short-term game, yeah, you can whittle a company to the point it's done. You can play the M&A game. You can acquire all your competitors until there's nothing left and you're fully levered, right, and stuck into debt. That's just not the way to go. And I think a lot of organizations are starting to realize that, and they're ready to get to compete with these digital giants or build their own digital giants. It's the partnering of different companies that come together. That's where we're going to see a lot of the excitement.
You just took this my next question, Ray. Yes, I was strategizing here to ask you about partnerships, because companies with less clout right now, right, maybe beyond startups, but medium-sized companies, right, in tech field. So should they partner? Should they look for this kind of collaboration with digital giants, or simply take their platforms and take their play toy kind of, tool set and build their own assets? I know it's not an easy question to answer, but what's your point of view?
Yeah, it's a great point. Look, you either build, partner, or perish. That's what we tell people. And for the smaller companies, you have to find how to collaborate to compete against a digital giant. For example, let's say the common competitor might be Amazon. Well, how would you compete against Amazon? Well, you wouldn't go head on against commerce. You'd also figure out how to do the last mile logistics. You'd figure out how to do the payments. You'd figure out how to get the content into place. You'd actually build those distribution networks. That would be one of the opportunities for someone to go do that, right? Sometimes the partnership's a little bit different. You integrate complete value chains, and you say, and this is actually kind of funny because it's happening in the media world at the moment, right? The large telcos are shedding their content assets because they don't want to spend $17 billion a year building content. So they've gotten out of the game because they got to maintain 5G towers or do 5G rollout. But if you look at comms, media, entertainment, and technology, that's one industry where you can basically collapse a whole bunch of industries along a value chain. And that value chain is content, it's the distribution of that content, it's the technology platforms, and it's the network of customers. And you can aggregate your way through that. You can partner to get there, right, and get good in each one of those areas to go after a streaming giant like Netflix or Amazon. And I think that's what we're starting to see over time, that people realize these collapsing value chains are important, and how do you bulk up to compete?
Yeah, it's interesting, and the rapid pace that this disruption is happening, Ray, is phenomenal. The thing that gets me is we see people that have invested, and I'm trying to remember that, was it Quibi, that streaming entertainment platform?
In LA, yeah.
I don't know how many billions went into that, and now they're gone. They're out because I don't think they were into the game late. Honestly, they thought they would take advantage of the pandemic, people staying home, and I know there was planning prior to that, but I don't think they did their research, in my opinion. The things that they were trying to do were already being done, and that's the thing, just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's going to work. You have to do your research, and today it's hard. 20, 30 years ago, you could predict the future as far as business strategy. Now you can't. It's like, man, it could change tomorrow.
Yeah, no, the challenge with that, with Quibi and those folks over there, was really they didn't, how do you put it? They thought the game was really to win on content, but they didn't understand that the partnerships actually have to be done in a different way. You really have to think about how clients and customers are thinking about the content game and what variety of content you need to have. I mean, look, it looked great on paper. It was an awesome opportunity. They were driving the change. It's one of those things where, you just have to move faster, or you have to have a different angle, right? And, it was definitely not underfunded. That will
yeah, so. For sure.
So Ray, how in this accelerating pace not to lose yourself, meaning that as an individual, as contributor, as a manager, as an owner, as a leader of the industry, right? How we stay human, because we do experience data overload. People are overworked, people are overburned. So where is this human element in accelerating change?
It's important, right? I mean, part of digital, if you do it properly, is you also have to humanize the digital experience. And I mean, we're not machines. We do have to take breaks. The way we interact and engage is a little bit different, and you have to build that into that design. In terms of whether you're leading a company, we tell people to follow a bunch of principles that are what we call dynamic leadership. We also tell people that you're going to actually have to build a dynamic skills base to keep up, right? It's continuous learning that's required because there's new skills that pop up all the time, and you have to be up to speed to learn those things. I laugh because when I think about my first job, what was exciting at the moment was, a fax machine. And it's like, great, that's kind of cool. Today, if that's what you're still doing, you've got some problems, right? I mean, you're pretty much, have to really bypass that. But there's some businesses that still live on fax machines, physicians' offices, wholesale distributors. I mean, hey, that's what they use, But the fact that we're doing things to automate, we're doing things to improve that efficiency, you're getting 10x scale, 100x scale in certain types of technologies, you can't miss out on that. I mean, that's really the difference between surviving and thriving.
Yeah, we're seeing it all over. I spoke with a founder, CEO of a company that she started to help seniors with technology, and it has just absolutely exploded. I think there is a need there, whether you're a boomer or even a traditionalist, someone that's probably 94 years old or older at this point. They feel like they still want to be part of society. There are some certain things they can't do, like you said, the fax machine. They might have been used to that for years, and maybe they can't fax. Now it says you need to upload a scanned document. But her business is actually booming, and and good for her. I'm so happy that she's out there helping that generation as they well need it, but it's helping everybody, and everybody is being changed, everybody's being disrupted, and I think it's a good thing at a micro level.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, if I remember, Marty Cooper's wife, if you know her, Arlene Harris, she's the one that's been doing that. I mean, she did stuff with Great Call, a whole bunch of other things where they're basically making things easier for, seniors and elderly people to actually make that transition. So you see a lot of interesting folks like that on the invention side. And Marty
What
Cooper, for
about
folks who don't know,
kids?
is the
Yeah,
guy
let's
that
talk
invented
about
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
mobile phone. Kids, what do you want to do with kids?
Kids! I want to talk about kids and their digital life because this is interesting because big giants affecting kids, they're affecting parents, they're affecting grandparents and great-grandparents. So we're all sort of now united. So what's your take, Ray, on where kids is gonna go? Because for them it's even faster. Okay, last year it was TikTok, 3 years ago was something else, and I don't want to date myself with those examples. So next year I'm sure will be something next. So how people should feel with giants taking over their kids.
You can start by getting onto Discord. That's where all the kids are. If you haven't figured that out, you're definitely not. If you're still using AOL Messenger, I apologize. Everyone's on Discord at the moment. It's kind of like the Google generation. Like, so many of us grew up on Microsoft. The kids grew up on Google, and now the kids are on other things, right? Anything but any one of the tech giants. So you're seeing that happen across the board. So each generation has their set of technologies that they work and use and consume and kind of communicate with. And Discord's that. Slack is for older people, right? So as you can see, if you think about just I mean, it's just crazy, right? Just the amount of things, like people are communicating in chat rooms in gaming technologies, right? Roblox and the whole economy around that reminds you of Snow Crash. It's come to life, and that's a famous book that if folks have read it. Basically, Snow Crash is about this whole world where digital economies kind of exist and come together, and that's basically Roblox at the moment. so yeah, I mean, you're seeing all these kind of things that kind of, I mean, the gaming world and the technology world and learning and, this whole virtual reality piece that's popping up, it's just normal to them.
Yeah, just like anything else in our lifetime. I know Irene was talking about dating ourselves, but we grew up in a totally different era. for sure. But we were used to it. We didn't have cell phones, right? Irene's like, yes, I did. I had a cell phone. But I'm dating myself. High school. What was a cell phone? I mean, they had the technology, but it wasn't
bag
prevalent.
phones, I think.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they absolutely. Yeah, and only if you could afford it. But yeah, it's amazing how that works.
I got my first cell phone in 1990. So I think that's when I got my first iPhone.
Is it like Michael Douglas, greed is good, that kind of phone? Yeah, that kind of thing?
No, I think it was an Oki phone. I don't know if they make those anymore, but some company called Oki Data built an Oki phone. They used to build printers, but somehow they got into the phone business. So, yeah.
You know what? Speaking of millennials, speaking of kids, what we call digital, they don't even call it digital. For them it's life. Okay, we have to start changing our own vocabulary because, right, there's no disruption. This is how life has been and will be, don't you think?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, look, they don't call it digital. It's kind of how they've grown up. But on the flip side, it's important that we humanize the digital element, and that's why it's good for the interaction to occur. I mean, most people have been behind screens for the last 15 months, and the kids have been, depending on where you live in the country, some kids have not even set foot in a classroom for a very long time. There's that experiential learning. We still have to remember that, right? The tactile, right? It's the serendipity of bumping into someone in a conference or seeing them in the hallway or jumping in. We got to have that, right? And you got to remember what the social norms are and the social skills to kind of have that type of communication. It doesn't mean you can't build friendships online, but it's very different when you go out and have dinner or talk to someone, have that kind of connection, right? That's very hard to replace. And we'll find out in the next 5 months. So
we use another word, hybrid. Right now we say everything hybrid, and hybrid means everything for everyone, So let's agree on terminology. Brian, you were about to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I see another business, and that's going to be kind of like ballroom dancing. That's still, there's actually a market for that, right? Which is very old school, right? I think there's going to be some etiquette for our new generation, maybe Gen Z, right? That there's going to be some etiquette where you actually send your kids, or if you're a young adult, you go there to learn some of the social etiquette and norms that I think, you can't go away. There's still got to be that face-to-face. As much as we're connected and online and doing the iPhone prayer, right? It's I think there's something to be said about relationships. And I think we will come full circle because there will be a breakdown a little bit in communication, a little bit of breakdown in society until we can get back to that human touch. That's just my 2 cents, but you can cash that in anytime. Just let me know.
Right, to be mindful of your time, what, few takeaways. I love to leave our audience, with something to remember us by. So if we provoked some ideas today, that's great. If we provided some infotainment, it's even better. But Ray, what do you want to leave our audience with? Couple things. Digital giants, are they after us, or we are after them with our individual powers?
Well, in the book, one of the things we talk about is really the need for regulation and really to keep fair and free markets. I'm a free market capitalist. I'm not ashamed to say that. But you can't have free and fair markets if the rules aren't working against you. And so these are going to be conversations about, who owns the data, who actually has those capabilities, what does access look like, and what happens, right, when digital giants stop innovating and stop providing consumer benefits. What's the check and balance? And so, where I talk about how do you build one, how do you partner to get there, the last part is really what kind of regulations can we ensure free and fair markets, but also the immense advantages that we've had in consumer innovations. I mean, think about translation services or maps or the ability to actually connect and do payments. All that stuff wasn't here before, right? How we buy, how we eat, what we do, how we think about, ideas has all completely been transformed. And we don't want to lose that level of innovation, but we also want to make sure that when the digital giants get too big, they don't stifle everything else around them.
One last thought on that is, I think some governments recognize, and even somewhat the United States government, we've had an interesting last several months, as you know. But the government, I think some governments in other countries that they don't have the freedoms we do to have the free enterprise market, as you talk about, Ray. At some point, the government is going to want to step in if they think they're going to lose control, and that's it's sad that people at the top, people that are influenced or even corrupted, want to hold on to their, they're not willing to change. They're not willing to let, people be themselves and be in a free market, be in a free world, being able to do the things that, we were all given at birth is freedom. And unfortunately, there's countries that have it locked down. And, I could name several, but we won't go there right now. But you're absolutely right.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Brian, so very much. I loved our talk today. Thank you. Let's stay in touch. And I appreciate everyone who is watching and who will watch a replay. Tune to SaugaTalks and Coruzant. Thank you. Thank you, Ray, so much.
All right. Take care.